Hello and welcome to the Michael Krug podcast show. Today, talking about staying healthy as a new, in parentheses, dad. And really, these are tips that anyone can use. I think especially anyone who's time crunched. For those who have kids, you probably recognize that they do take up a lot of time. They give you so much joy, and it forces you to change routines and to do things a little bit differently here and there. So I'm just going to share a little bit about, what I've changed in my own health habits. I know I haven't been super regular with podcast episodes. Super busy summer. I've got two stepkids who are 11 and 13. I have a newborn who is just about 3 weeks old, and just how we're adapting as a family, what we're doing, how we're making this happen so that everyone can be, get their needs met and that I can stay healthy, because it's a big part of my identity. It's part of what I do as a profession. And it's just who I am. So before I jump in, I do want to share the Wolfpack is live. This is a men's health community focused on advancing in mind, body, and purpose. Something that I've taken essentially everything that I've learned through 8 years of doing health coaching, of being a board certified health coach, as well as a personal trainer. And I put it together in a very simple to use, easy, straightforward program and / community to be able to take your health to the next level. So if you want info, I'll put the link in the show notes here if you can check that out. Again, this is for men only, the Wolfpack. So jumping in today, when it comes to staying healthy as a new dad, so I want to start by saying, the dad bod is something that we're all familiar with, something that I don't think I have it. I don't know. For how heavy I am, I'm about 221 pounds. My body fat percent's relatively low. That's because I've had the privilege and the ability to work out regularly for quite a while. Even having stepkids, they're a little bit older. They're more self-sufficient in certain ways. Obviously, we got to bring them to soccer practice and go to cross-country meets and wrestling matches, all of that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I've had a solid routine to be able to commit to my fitness and nutrition. And then when you have a newborn, for those of you who are parents, and if you don't, you'll learn this, everything just changes very quickly. There's so much joy in it. It's a ton of fun. I don't know if you can see if you're watching on YouTube. I've got this bassinet with a bunch of random stuff in it. We're not using this bassinet. This is an extra one. My office is a total shit show, for lack of better terms. I'll get the explicit rating on this episode, I guess. And it's just, you just try and get through every day as best as you can and make sure that everyone's needs are met. And I think especially for men, especially for fathers, you're kind of the leader of your family. I wholeheartedly believe in that. And part of being a leader is making sure that everyone else's needs are met before yours. So for example, when we got home from the hospital with baby, making my wife a bunch of soup and meal prep, taking over pretty much all of the kids' activities. So bringing the kids to and from practices, my stepkids, that is, making sure that, water bottles are filled, things are picked up, dishes are done. It's a lot, right? And it's, all of us already live such busy lives, such full lives. It can hit you kind of hard if you have never done it before, if it's your first child, right? And it definitely hit me hard. I think almost 3 weeks later here, I've definitely been able to do some things, and I will go through. I have a list of 5 different things that have been really helping me just stay where I'm at health-wise. But it's something that, not even one of the points, but, my advice to anyone who's maybe, if your wife is pregnant or if you're expecting to have kids soon, is have conversations very early on, even maybe before you even think about getting pregnant, about how it's going to look. And obviously it's going to be different. When the baby comes, all the planning in the world is never going to truly prepare you for when you bring that baby home. But being able to at least have some understanding of, expectations for yourself and how you're going to show up, communicating your needs to your partner is super important, to your wife, and or if you're a woman, I guess your husband, and just being able to kind of have a plan in place, right? Again, you're not going to be able to adhere to it 100%, but at least having maybe a slight blueprint or idea of how you want certain things to look like, who's going to be feeding baby when, who's going to be sleeping with baby, who's going to be changing diapers. Another big conversation is, income and work. So my wife and I figured out a way where she could just be completely off from work as long as she needs. So I'm the one working. So we've got strategies so that I can still have my energy to show up at work in full capacity, right? So just having those conversations as early as possible, I think, is going to be super helpful. And even if you maybe do have a newborn, or even if it's, if you have a baby who's a year old or something, it's never too late to have these conversations. So maybe that's like point zero. Point zero, we'll call it having the conversations on how you can make sure everyone's needs are met, including yourself, and then being able to have some sort of blueprint or action plan for doing that. So now we're going to actually jump in and be able to go over the 5 steps, the 5 things. This is just what I'm personally doing. Again, almost 3 weeks of having a newborn. The top 5 things I'm doing to stay healthy. So for me, staying healthy is going to look different for everyone else. For me, that's like maintaining some muscle mass. That's showing up at work and fully, showing up the way that I need to there. It's being active. It's eating healthy. Stress management, sleep, right? Because, sleep is probably going to go down a little bit. Stress is probably going to be a little bit higher. Time is going to go way down. So if you can at least do some things to be systematic and strategic with these things, it can help you a bit. So, okay, my top 5 things to stay healthy. And the number one thing, and again, for me, the number one thing is tracking food. I've shared it before. I've gone on and off tracking food over the years. Sometimes I do it strategically if I'm trying to do a cut. Sometimes I do it if I'm trying to get extra protein, if I'm in I wouldn't say I'm ever bulking, but really focusing on getting more muscle mass. And it's something that I usually don't have to do. I'm usually pretty good intuitive eating. My weight typically fluctuates between 215 and 222. That's my normal range. I'm still barely in there right now. And 3 days after baby was born, I stepped on the scale, and I do weigh myself every day. I think, again, that's a great strategy. If your goal is weight loss, weigh yourself every day. Direct, immediate feedback lets you know what's working, what's not. But, and I was up at 224.4, I think it was. And I was like, okay, we got to do something. So literally, I always, first thing in the morning, I weigh myself. That day, I was like, all right, I'm tracking food again. So I've been tracking every meal since that moment. It's funny, I've still been eating quite a few calories, a decent amount of days, 4,000 plus calories, whether that's because I have not gotten the best sleep, whatever it might be. I do have strategies in place, so I've actually brought that weight down a little bit, and I do feel nourished and satisfied. So with me, with tracking food, the way that I go about it, I'm always looking just at mostly calories and protein. You can get into the nitty gritty and look at carb cycling, low fat, high fat, whatever you want to do. For the most part, I'm just making sure that for me, I'm getting at least 150 grams of protein a day, and my calories, I'm trying to keep it around between 3,000 and 3,500. I know that sounds ridiculous and it's a pretty big range, but for me, that's maintenance. Actually, for me, 3,000 calories a day with how active I am, the type of workouts that I do, that's actually a weight loss number for me. So if I can keep it between 3,000 and 3,500 a day, I'm going to maintain right around 220. And that's why I'm tracking food. So again, point 1, when it comes to health habits, stay healthy as a new dad, especially if you notice the scale is going up rather quickly, start tracking food. Tracking food is the best way to be accountable to yourself with nutrition. So that's number 1. Number 2 is shorter workouts. Now, this is something that I've been doing for a long time. And since baby, I've actually even condensed it even more. So I am typically a 35 to 45 minute gym guy. I'll get in there, I walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes, I do about 5 minutes of mobility, and then I'm doing usually about 20 to 30 minutes of active sets, whether that's a circuit style, whether that's, today I did heavy-ish back squats and dead bugs, and then I did some box jumps, whether it's, pull-ups and deadlifts, there's a ton of different ways you can go about fitness. But I think being strategic on the time is going to be super helpful because I will say, golf has essentially gone away for this year because that's just a lot of time to put in. And that's one of the ways I like to stay fit and healthy is I usually walk when I play golf. So being able to do things like quicker workouts. Even so, I usually go for a walk every day. I actually carry a ruck bag, a 30-pound backpack. And I have two main loops that I do. One is 2.2 miles, one is 3.5 miles. And I've actually found another loop by my house now that's about 1.5. So even if it's like, okay, I haven't done anything today, Jess wants to take a shower or something, I got a whole baby, just communicating like, hey, is it cool with you if I go for this quick walk? It'll be 20 minutes, mile and a half, whatever it is. That can be super beneficial as well. So looking at the time invested in workouts, and I think, back to the resistance training piece, whether you're time constrained or not, you can get so much done in 45 minutes. It's the idea of having to go to the gym for 2 hours to me is insanity. It's like, it seems like a waste of time. You can get into different arguments if you're doing junk volume, if it's all actually working for you. But if you're just really strategic, for me, it's mostly compound lifts. I'm not sitting in there doing bicep curls or tricep overhead whatevers or calf raises. Like, again, not saying that's a complete waste of time, but if your goal is to get the most efficient workout possible, doing compound lifts. So I'm usually looking for horizontal push, horizontal pull, vertical push, hip dominant, knee dominant legs, and then a little bit of core. If I'm hitting all of those at least once, if not twice per week throughout 3 to 4 workouts, I'm going to be maintaining where I'm at. And that's what I've been doing. And I would say one more thing with resistance training too is, if you are time constrained, there's 2 different ways I like to get the most out of a quick workout. One is to go quick, so little rest time, keep the heart rate elevated. That'll be more like a metabolic conditioning workout. So you get some muscle gain, but a lot of calorie burn. And you'll usually get a higher heart rate, which has great benefits for VO2 max, longevity, all of that. And then the other one is kind of what I did today, is to go heavy, right? So if you're not feeling like doing a HIIT workout, which for me, most of the times I'm not feeling that, just go heavy with whatever you're doing. So if you're used to doing, let's say, like a dumbbell press with 50-pound dumbbells for 10 reps, maybe drop to like 5 reps, but try and do like 65 or 70, right? So increase the weight with less reps. Another great way to get more out of quicker workouts. So that's point number 2, shorter workouts, be strategic with it, and as always, schedule it out so that you adhere to it. Point number 3 is meal prep. Now, it's been amazing. I'm so grateful, the generosity of people who have brought over a lot of different types of food for us, a ton of soup. So it's fall as I'm recording this, so it's soup season. We've gotten pasta. People have ordered takeout for us. Like, it's been so awesome. I'm so grateful. And that's already slowing down. There's like, everyone's enamored when you have a baby. They love it, and I'm super grateful for it. People bring you soup for the first couple of weeks, and then typically there's a point in time where it's like, okay, we're not bringing these people food anymore, right? Baby is a month old. He should be, get a job already, right? So being really strategic with meal prep, something that I've always done, but I have been even more intentional about it with baby, because I realize how important it is, not just for me, but for my wife, who, she's taking care of baby pretty much all day, every day. So it's very hard for her to cook. If you put him down, he starts crying in 5 minutes. The kids, my stepkids aren't cooking for themselves quite yet. Some things they will, but for the most part not. So just making things super easy. So I've actually made a couple different batches of soup myself already. Things like braised chicken, roasted vegetables can be really simple. Turn it on the grill and just throwing whatever you got on the grill and cooking it up. Not necessarily like planning like the pre-portioned, and if you listen to my podcast, I'm not into the whole like pre-portioned meals. It's like cook a bunch, put them in containers, take what you want, heat it up, throw it in the microwave. Like, I don't know, I'm sure some people are like, microwaves are bad for you. I don't really give a shit. Like, if you got to just do it, you just got to do it. But throw it in the microwave, eat it cold, who cares? Just having good, healthy food available is going to be so beneficial. And I don't know if I've talked about this in the podcast before. I talk about it with a lot of clients, but one of my nutrition perspectives is within the family unit, it's really important to have one kitchen manager, I call it. Now, I've worked a lot of hospitality in my life, from serving, cooking, all of that stuff. And there's, your kitchen manager, the person who runs the show. And I think within the family unit, making sure that you have the kitchen manager. And I will say, if your goal is to make changes to your nutrition, you should be the kitchen manager, because then you have control over what's being cooked and what you're going to eat. But for me, with Jess taking care of baby, she was the kitchen manager for quite a while before this, for a couple months. Now I've taken that duty back over. So just making super high frequency, healthy meals for everyone in the family. Also being able to make things relatively quickly or that are just low effort. So for example, if you have everything prepared, it's really easy to throw it into stir fry. So if you've already got veggies cooked, protein cooked, rice cooked, throw it in the pan, throw some soy sauce in there, lemon juice, mix it up, heat it up for 5 minutes, and there you have a perfect meal. So the quick things are great. I also want to say it's important to have things that are low maintenance. So for example, I will do a lot of like braised or slow roasted chicken, braised or slow roasted chuck roast, things like that. Things you put in the oven, maybe 250, 300 for a couple hours. Again, it's super simple. You could use like an Instant Pot or crock pot. I personally just like to use a Dutch oven. Maybe I'm just old school and not like the Dutch oven where you fart and cover, but never mind. But I use an actual Dutch oven. And so for example, on Sunday, I think it was probably 3 pounds of chicken in the Dutch oven with a little bit of chicken stock, covered it, put it in the oven at 300 degrees for I think 2.5 hours, pulled it out, put half of it into one bowl, salt and pepper, mashed it up into the shredded chicken. That's perfect for the kids. Took another bowl, put the chicken in there. I had some pre-made like butter chicken sauce, poured that in there. Then I have shredded butter chicken for myself and Jess. And not saying the kids won't eat the butter chicken, but sometimes kids are like, why is it orange? It's like, dude, it's good sauce. I don't know. And then they won't eat it. So anyway, but super simple things like that. And especially, I will say if you're looking at anything to meal prep, that's going to be the most beneficial. I'm a big fan of having proteins ready to go. We know how important protein is. Obviously, fiber is in there as well. Could be something where if you already have something in the oven, like that's braising, you just throw some roasted veggies in there, or even like fresh broccoli. There's nothing better than broccoli. If you eat the full thing, you cut off all like the little pieces, make your own sizes, olive oil, salt, pepper, so good in the oven, also great on the grill. But just making sure that you have those fiber and protein staples ready to go. And then I will say one more thing. This is like I keep going on this because it's so important, but also having healthy, simple, quick meals that you don't have to cook at all. So taking something like a Greek yogurt, maybe a little bit of protein powder, mix it together with some water. That's a really great one. Or you can just do yogurt, maybe some chia seeds, maple syrup, whatever you want to do. I'm a big fan of Greek yogurt. It's super simple. Protein bars, they are processed, but they can fit the bill, especially if you need something super quick on the go. RX bars are a good option. So just having meals, things that are easy, simple, ready to go, not having to think about it and put the effort in, super helpful as a new dad. So that's point number 3 is prioritizing meal prep. Number 4, prioritizing sleep. This one, again, it's going to look different for everyone. A lot of people have been asking me, like, how I've been sleeping. And I've actually been sleeping in the living room, so I've been sleeping okay. That was Jess's idea. I'm very grateful for her for that idea because I do have to show up and go to work every day and show up for my clients, show up for the clinic that I'm the manager of. So being able to prioritize sleep however you can. Now, in the first couple of days when I was still sleeping with baby, very challenging, but just recognizing like if you can have breaks in the day when baby is sleeping to be able to take a nap, there's a lot of truth in that. A lot of people told me like you sleep when the baby sleeps, and that's definitely very true. And if it's something where maybe if you're the one who's providing, having that conversation on, okay, how is this going to look so I can still show up with my max energy? And I think just having boundaries with sleep. So for example, if baby falls asleep and you're like, okay, maybe I'm going to get an hour to take a nap here, not just wasting that time scrolling on your phone or even working, right? Not that work's a waste of time, but it is super important. I say it all the time, sleep and hydration are the 2 most important pieces of foundation that we build all of our health upon. And with a newborn, whether you're sleeping in the living room or sleeping in bed with baby or in the room with baby, or if they're in a nursery in the next room over, whatever it is, your sleep isn't going to be as good as it was. Even with me being in the living room, it's still not as good as it was. I still hear when he wakes up and cries and stuff. So being really, really realistic about it, and then being super boundaried with your sleep, recognizing that when you do have the opportunity to get some sleep, not wasting it away. And it's the same thing as if at night, if you're trying to work on sleep and you get in bed at 9:30 p.m. and you start scrolling on your phone and all of a sudden it's midnight, it's kind of the same thing. It's like just have boundaries with sleep in general so that we can be our most optimal and healthy selves. So that's number 4, being able to prioritize sleep. And then number 5, this is kind of a random point. If you listen to my podcast, I'm not big on supplements. I like to try and get everything that I can from food. I love to eat, so that's why I typically strategize getting things from food. But I did start taking creatine, not as much for the muscle repair and the energy that you supposedly get from it, which now that I think about it, it's actually probably made a big difference. But because of all of the energy or all of the evidence and research that shows that it's super helpful if you get a poor night of sleep. So I've started taking 5 or 10 grams a day. It's basically 1 scoop or 2. I basically wake up, I feel into how tired I am, and then it's actually this glass right here. So I actually take this Summit pint glass. I put an LMNT packet for electrolytes, which are super important. I've been taking LMNT regularly for over a year now. That's the only supplement that I take, though, every day. But I've added creatine, either 1 or 2 scoops or 5 or 10 grams. And I will say, again, I believe in placebo effect. Maybe that's what it is. But I feel pretty good, even on nights where, my watch, I have the Garmin watch, tracks my sleep. Sometimes it's like, yeah, your sleep score was like 42. You were awake for a total of an hour and a half amongst 11 different times you woke up. I'm like, shit, I didn't even realize that I woke up that many times. But even on those days where I'd have every excuse to be super tired, having big doses of creatine, I really do wholeheartedly think that it's been helping. So again, I am not someone who is affiliated with any supplement companies. I have my own thoughts on supplements a lot of the times. Maybe a topic for a different episode. I think there's definitely a lot of benefit and value to a lot of them. I think a lot of the stuff out there is just shit and that you don't need it. But I will say, I think the creatine thing is pretty legit. And I personally just went on Amazon and bought the cheapest creatine monohydrate that I could find for 100 servings or 50 servings, whatever it was. And it's been working really great. So that's what I got. 0.5 is creatine. So quick recap. Again, top 5 things as a new dad that I personally have done and am doing to maintain healthy, to stay relatively lean, to have energy, and to show up fully for myself and others. 1 is tracking food. I use Chronometer app. I'm trying to be around 3,000 to 3,500 calories a day just to make sure I don't get like super fat again, because I wouldn't want to do that. I don't think I will, but when you see the scale bump up like 4 pounds in 3 days, you're like, I got to do something. Number 2, shorter workouts. So again, 30 minutes is plenty of time. I will say, so I mentioned it earlier, the Wolf Pack that I mentioned, that men's fitness community. Part of that is you get access to my fitness app, and I have currently 13 different programs, including, I don't know how many, but several of them are 30-minute or less workouts. So that's all included in that Wolf Pack. Check the link in the comments if you're interested, or in the description, whatever it is. But shorter workouts in general, as well as walking, just cutting things down, but still prioritizing it every day. Number 3 is meal prep. So again, having foods that are easy, prepped, ready to go that you've made, as well as things that you don't have to cook. Super, super important. Number 4 is prioritizing sleep. So if baby's sleeping, prioritizing your sleep at that same time, and or if you have to have the conversation about what kind of sleeping arrangements can we have so that I can get my sleep, is super important. And then number 5 is creatine. Again, never thought I'd see the day where I'm on a podcast being like, yeah, this supplement's great, but I think creatine has been honestly saving my life the last couple of weeks. So that's what I got. As always, super grateful for anyone who listens to this. I do love, when people comment, whether they're nice or not. I've gotten some not nice comments in the past as well, but it's just nice to know that people are listening. And yeah, if you got any value out of this, consider subscribing. I mentioned it in my other school community. I have a free school community as well, but just trying to get more regular with YouTube here as we're getting into a new rhythm with babies. So that's what I got. And as always, until next time, keep inspiring.